Did you guys know that autistic people can't drive? Who would have thought? I thought it was women this whole time, but apparently it's autistic people. Ugh. Anyways, this TikTok creator made a video explaining how autistic people have a hard time driving, coming up with all different kinds of excuses for the fact that they probably themselves aren't a great driver and they're using autism as an excuse. Let's watch this video together, and you know, I can see how maybe you know, since autism is you know, social cues and things like that, how, you know, maybe if you're at a four-way stop and you know, you feel awkward about doing this to somebody because you're socially awkward, how that could affect you. But that's really all I can think about. Anyways, let's watch the video. Why not?
Driving can be really hard for autistic people. There's a lot of sensory input to process while driving, such as street lights, traffic lights, headlights, and noise from cars. And this can cause
overstimulation from the lights, signs, and yeah. Here's what I don't understand. If your autism is that bad, how are you allowed to drive? How did you pass your driver's test? I mean, I get that, you know, autism varies. It's obviously a spectrum. But, you know, I do get a bit confused as to if it's really this hard, why are we driving? You know, if the autism is that bad. And if so, is there any way we can make driving a bit better for autistic people? Like, instead of having the stoplights be red, green, and yellow, how could we make it so we don't overstimulate the autistic people that are driving? We have it be audio, but then deaf people can't drive, so that's off the table. It's so hard to accommodate for disabled people, man. Gosh.
Stimulation. Driving requires holding attention, but it's easy to get distracted when there's so much going on around you. Driving also requires an understanding.
Okay, am I the only one? This is just basic driving skills. Paying attention to the road, that's not a hard thing. That's a basic rule of driving. If you can't do that, please don't drive. Please. I have siblings that drive. I don't drive. I take the subway. But if it's really that hard to focus on the road, please don't drive. I'm begging you. That's like the basic rule of driving, is pay attention to the road.
Understanding of social cues or driving cues, such as when to go.
What?
Cues, such as social cues or driving cues, such as when to go.
There's a difference between social cues and driving cues. You know, social cues is, my body is closed off, I'm uncomfortable, don't talk to me. Sometimes autistic people have a hard time understanding that. Red means stop, green means go. That's not a social cue. You know, cutting somebody off in traffic, that's not a social cue. That's a driving cue. You shouldn't do that. Brake checking the frick out of the police officer behind me, that's not a social cue.
Which can be hard for autistic people to decipher. Many autistic people have poor spatial perception, which can be problematic when it comes to calculating the distance.
Really? I didn't know that.
Many autistic people have poor spatial perception, which can be problematic when it comes to calculating the distance that your car is from other cars or objects. Others on the road can often be unpredictable, which can be hard for autistic people to deal with because
it's hard for everybody to deal with. People drive like idiots.
Thrive on predictability. Lastly, it can take autistic people longer to process information. Because of this, it can be hard to make split-second, on-the-spot decisions.
Why are we letting them drive if it's this bad? I mean, I know this is not all autistic people, okay? I know this is just because it's a woman. I'm kidding, please. I'm sorry. But the jokes are right there. The woman driving jokes are right there. It's so, I mean, it's just asking to have a joke about it. All right, sorry. But Yeah, most of the comments are, speak for yourself, I'm great at it.
Driving can be really...
Most of the comments are, speak for yourself, I'm great at driving. Which is what I figured, you know. I'm glad that I'm having some autistic input. That should be a title of a show, autistic input. I'm glad that we're having some autistic input, because obviously me, not autistic, I can't really speak to what it's like living in an autistic mind. But these people are like, it's actually not that hard to drive being autistic. I think you're just a crappy driver. Skill issue, just don't drive. It does seem like a skill issue. Maybe just don't drive. If all of the disabilities that you were describing, if you have all of those, then maybe you shouldn't be driving. If it's really that hard, if you can't even pay attention to the road, I don't know. It feels like you're just kind of making autism your entire personality, and using excuses for being a bad driver and hiding it behind autism. But fair enough, I guess. But please don't crash into me on the road. It would be really bad.